Hello everyone, today we have none other than Galactus, and a nulless Galactus at that. So whenever I first built Galactus, whenever I first unlocked him, I used it in a nulless into a more lockdown heavy version. So what can we do if we don't get Galactus to trigger was my main concern the first time I built a deck. And I think that is where his strength lies now. A lot of times you're building him with null, with death, and just really greedy after the Galactus triggers. But what do you do if you can't get Galactus to go off? If you run into someone running debris, what do you do and how do you pivot from there? And I think his strength shifted back to this lockdown style heavy build to one, give the opponent that unsatisfying unpeace of mind. I don't know a better way to say it. They just never know for sure what that play is going to be. So sometimes you're going to wave into Galactus. Sometimes you're going to wave into a Professor X, sometimes into a Hobgoblin, a Spider-Man. They just never know for sure what that follow-up play is going to be. And so within that uncertainty leaves room for misplays. And so we're not going to go too deep into the deck explanation, but overall it works incredibly well. We're going to be taking it into an Infinity Conquest run, and this was a very, very fun one, you guys. And real quick before we jump over into any gameplay, thank you guys for the support. I know that I've said it the last couple of videos, but the support and the increase in subs has been insane. I actually had almost my highest sub day since January, and that was still around the time the game was launching and really getting its bearings. And so to be able to potentially compete with that number was absolutely, it blew my mind. So thank you guys so much for the support, and if you're still not subscribed and you're watching this video but you enjoy them, consider subscribing. It definitely helps out, and I definitely appreciate having you here. But with that out of the way, we're going to be jumping into the Infinity Conquest run. I hope you guys enjoy. We can actually do something like Hobgoblin out. It'll go over before this comes down. There'll be -2. We'll get the lead here. It's a bold call doing the Professor X here. I'll take it though. That should give us, unless they have a Jeff, of course, Jeff could win them that location, but then they're going to have to fight for one of these other two. I guess we're going to do something like this. This will give us a 6, 7, 8 point lead over here. We have a 6 lead here. So they'll have to do Jeff plus something else that impacts the other 2 lanes. Now, I guess they could do something like a Mr. Fantastic, but that's not great either. Wait, how do we win that one? Our Nova from District X gave them enough where they were able to get the Galactus off, but our cards buffed over it. That's an unfortunate miscalculation on Sky's end. But we do know they have Galactus. That is the only thing from their deck that they played was the Galactus. I don't know. I don't know if Galactus is just coming back in popularity because of all of the lockdown and control. You can kind of go over the top of that if you can get the Galactus to trigger. My only complaint now is that they're roping us to no end. Shuri's Lab is interesting for like our Goblin, potentially a Spider-Man, an Orca, even Galactus can be pretty strong there. Isle of Silence, I thought about doing Electro into Danger Room, but we're going to do it into the Isle of Silence instead. From there, we could do maybe a Spider-Man into a Professor X to guarantee that we get the lockdown in Shuri's Lab. But we kind of want some protection in Danger Room as well, knowing that they have a Galactus. We'll see. What do they play in Shuri's Lab? Not a ramp component. No way. Okay. I was going to say, if their morph hits our Galactus, I'm out. I mean, it'd be fine. We have the Spider-Man to Professor X still, but I would absolutely be out. You know, we're actually just going to Hail Mary Professor X into Danger Room. What? What kind of cook is this? What kind of cook is my friend cooking here? Because they have Morph, Mr. Negative, and Galactus, but Galactus does not interact well with Mr. Negative anymore. I don't know. I'm going to do Spider-Man into the Isle of Silence. We're going to do Iceman. That way, if they do decide to go Galactus, we have a free trigger on this last turn in the Isle of Silence. And then if not, they can't use Galactus anywhere else. I have no idea what kind of cook they are cooking with those 3 cards. None. So they do use a double drop. What do we have come down? Devil Dino is big, but we do have Shang-Chi to counteract it. And then Psylocke. They can't play over here, they can't play over here. Unless they're wanting to do like a White Tiger to push power here. I think we just cover our bases, right? Because this would be 8. This would bring us up to 9. Maybe an Ironheart? I don't know. I don't know what Sky's cooking. So double drop into Shuri's lap. I'm so confused what my friend is cooking here. The Mystique doesn't have anything to copy anymore. Beautiful. And then the Arnhem Zola, which could have been bold. That could have been a potential 2 out of 3 chance to hit the Devil Dino. But bouncing over into Isle of Silence, it would have been zeroed out anyways because of the Isle of Silence. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. I don't know what kind of cook this is. Super interesting cook. The Galactus can just be unusable sometimes. Let's put the pressure on. All right, so we have the Iceman to disrupt some of their curve potentially, or their counteractive protective cards. We have the Daredevil, we have the Wave, so we can always try and attempt at a Galactus on turn number 4. Well, no, I don't know. We'll see. I am going to do Daredevil into the Avengers compound because I plan on trying to get one of the other locations locked down on turn 4, leaving us free to kind of experiment on turn 6. You know what? Instead of Wave, we're going to go Electro. We're going to go Electro, rotate it back in. We have no bad flips. The best one, of course, would probably be Galactus. The next one, Professor X or Spider-Man. Hobgoblin would be perfect. Jeff would be fine. The worst one would be Shang-Chi. So it's a 1 out of 6 chance to get just an unusable card. I think we would take those chances. Jeff's not bad. We get the extra energy and we get Jeff on the board. Huge value our way. Do we ever block them out of Avengers compound on 5? We can then always maybe Wave on 5. If they use a Mr. Negative and we think they're going to have multiple cards to use, we can always Wave on 5. That way, even if they're 0 cost, they can only do one thing. The Null is kind of scary. I guess they didn't want to play anymore. All right, next up we have Captain Gridiron. The first location is the Raft. We really don't have any great way to compete for the Raft, but we do have our Daredevil. We have the Iceman. Forge could come in handy. I'm going to go ahead and play our Daredevil. Maybe we use Forge into a Galactus. Then we have a 9-power Galactus instead of 7. They have a Daredevil of their own. Are we running into another Galactus list again? If so, it's kind of wild. I wish we had Electro to use into Vormir. I think what we're going to do, we use Wave into the Raft. And then maybe we just do a card in the Raft, whether that be Forge, Shang-Chi, whatever. If they use a Galactus on us, then we'll have the free Raft resource to use alongside our Spider-Man. So we'll have coverage that way. I guess maybe I need to upgrade mine. I just like the gray border on them. Ooh, so it's a high Evo deck with Daredevil. I kind of want to go Orca here. It's either we go Orca or we go Jeff. I think we're going to go Orca. Might as well. Null is huge. If this is, for some reason, Galactus, no, it's Professor X. A little unfortunate. We do have Jeff that can sneak its way over there so that we're not at a complete loss in that location. Let's do Spider-Man. Then we'll do Jeff. And we'll see. We at least push this into a tie. If they have a Shang-Chi and they take out our Orca, then our Null gets better. Yeah. He snapped on us. And I'm gonna stay because I think we're all right. Ooh, the Spider-Man. It is unfortunate. We can win mid, we can win right, but we can't win both. They always have something that's more than 12 power, right? That's unfortunate. An interesting build that Captain's running. It's a high Evo lockdown, so maybe we see Storm in here as well. But with both the Professor X and Spider-Man and the Scorpion at that, it's very, very interesting. They got us that time. Maybe we can get them this time. All right, they're gonna either copy our Spider-Man, our Orca, and our Shang-Chi, and we get their high Evo. Of all of the cards we could have pulled, that's probably the worst from their deck. Okay, the hub gives us Storm. I'm not sure that we want to use Storm, but we have it nonetheless. They get Daredevil again. So it's going to come down to a Daredevil battle of if we can get Daredevil one game where they can't, or they get one where we can't. That's going to give them so much information because that turn 5 play is so critical for this lockdown style deck, or even for our Galactus. It is what it is. Ooh, the Lockjaw lane is interesting. They could lock that down with a Professor X and then it won't rotate, but otherwise, they're kind of at the mercy. Polaris, strong guy. Well, I hope you're really, really strong. I'm gonna do high Evo and hope that they don't have like a Sunspot, Nebula, anything really impactful, Cyclops that can win them the flooded lane. They will get the Daredevil read on 5, which is really unfortunate. Ooh, yeah, that's definitely over what we can play. And that one, I don't see a scenario where we win that one. I retreated really early, but I don't see a scenario where we win that one, so I'd rather conserve some of my potential turn 5 plays to use in like a surprising manner rather than them having a Daredevil that can read it. And since I think we were going to lose that one regardless, I went ahead and opted to retreat out early. And so we get the double Iceman trigger, which is beautiful. Dream Dimension is a little bit unfortunate, but we could potentially work around that with the wave with an Electro. Electro and Camartage would be really big at bumping us up early. Daredevil again. Ugh, makes me ill. They're going to get a little bit of insight. Okay, Abomination. They're going to get a little bit of insight into what kind of deck or what resources we have. I am going to go Wave in the left lane. Ooh, the double Scorpion is just so treacherous. It does make our Hobgoblin that much better. That's about it. Everything else is tough. Do they run a Shang-Chi? I'm curious if they run a Shang-Chi or not. The double trigger from the thing is massive. We have absolutely no plays here. So the big A-bomb comes down. And what did that cost them? I don't know what that cost them. I kind of would be interested in sticking out to do this, but there's several chances that they can overpower our Orca. We're taking a lot of losses early, which... we just needed one opening. It does feel bad. We need one opening to find a way to win. I think we have a pretty good feel for pretty much their entire deck now. It's just like a high Evo lockdown, but also leans into that Affliction for the Abomination. Wakanda MC gives Electro a little bump, our Professor X and Spider-Man a little bump. So we will be able to do a 5-on-4. Whoa, the Kitty Pryde. Would have never in a million years thought Kitty Pryde in this deck. Super interesting. All right, I'm gonna snap into it, but we have Daredevil, so even if they have a Daredevil or they play a Daredevil, they're not gonna get that perfect insight, and so that gives us some room to play around their cards. We'll see. We'll see if we're able to hold it down. They probably can just lock in Kiln, and I don't know that we have any say over it, especially with the Thing being as massive as the Thing is. I think we go Electro into maybe Professor X in Nidavellir. I assume that they have a Jeff somewhere. I think we Professor X lock in Nidavellir. We could always on the last turn do like Spider-Man plus Jeff or Hobgoblin plus Jeff into Nidavellir to get that extra reach. So I think we're decently confident in this. The Professor X line, we should be fine over there. They have the big Abomination. They had to make a decision of where we were truly going to be competing for. And I'm glad to say that they chose incorrectly. We now get the Daredevil insight. We did snap into it because we had that slight advantage early. And so we wanted to press that advantage where we could. They play Gamora. Super interesting deck that Captain is running. They play Gamora. I think we do Spider-Man. Make sure that they can't play on the last turn. Then we do like a Hobgoblin plus Jeff. And the Hobgoblin is going to be a little bit more impactful courtesy of their Scorpion. Our Spider-Man is also pretty decent courtesy of Wakanda Embassy. We should be able to get over that 12, I think, no matter what they have. Jeff will supersede or overcome the Electro restriction. We do force the retreat. We're going to need several more of those. And against a lockdown heavy deck, it's always going to be 2 and 4 cubes. And so they're going to be long, grueling battles, but you have to press your advantage where you can. And Captain, that's one thing that I've noticed that they didn't do early on, was pressing that advantage. When they had like a really good play or really good lead into a really good lockdown, they weren't pressing their advantage as optimally as maybe they should have or could have. Let's go Nebula in the left lane. Usually I like to do it in one of these other two, but it's going to encourage them to have to play here, and then that can get bounced any number of places. I'm going to go ahead and snap into it. We have the Spider-Man, we have the Professor X. Even though we don't have a ramp component yet, I think we're decently okay in knowing that they won't be able to see our turn 5 play. Even if we can't see theirs, they won't be able to see ours. And so they do retreat. We are getting a little bit of momentum, and we are right back in this. We start with Nebula again. We also have a wave. So if they get Daredevil down on 2, but we do, and Isle of Silence is big for our Electro. Let's go. We're gonna continue to press that advantage. One of these times they're gonna make the decision to stay, and then it'll be for a potentially 4 or 6 cube, where maybe before it was only gonna be 2, and it's a little bit easier to retreat out for 2 rather than 4 when you've already committed the 4. So we have the Nebula, we have the Electro into the Isle of Silence, which is massive value. Unfortunately, we don't have a turn 2 play, so we don't have Jeff, Daredevil, or Iceman yet. I think we're okay. And so Jean Grey is kind of interesting. We now have Daredevil, but I think we opt to do Electro instead. That allows us to do a 5 cost next turn. And so I'm interested in doing like Professor X into Camp Lehi. Whoa, they used the Black Cat that they got from Camp Lehi. We're going to need this Professor X lock to be solid. We could also do like a Daredevil and a Wave. Daredevil and Wave could be kind of interesting. But I do like the idea of a Professor X lock. Do they anticipate the Professor X lock this time around? I think they do, and I think they play into Camp Lehi instead of Kiln. Because 7 power in Kiln is big. That's a lot to overcome. I think we're going to do this instead. They didn't. What? That is so much commitment to that middle location. We had so much room for an easy Professor X lock into a Spider-Man lock in Isle of Silence, and then we would have just been all done. But unfortunately, that's not the way it fell. All right, so the Enchantress in the right lane is fine. That's only 5. This overcomes that, and then we try for an Orca in this left lane. Because the best they're going to be able to do is Gamora. That's 12. I guess Gamora and Kitty Pryde, that's 14. We should have more than the 14. So we'll Spider-Man lock the right lane. I think Orca is going to be enough, even though it's not going to get the ongoing bonus. Even though it's been afflicted with the Scorpion, I think we're okay. They've already done their Abomination, so we don't have to worry about how many cards we've played that have been afflicted or anything like that. Ooh, actually, we can do Orca and Iceman for that extra reach in this left lane. I think we should be okay. We're going to send it. Hopefully they send it. Ooh, if they have Jeff. We haven't seen Jeff. Oh, we should have played the Iceman into Camp Lehi. They're taking a while to lock in. Maybe they don't have the Jeff. Okay. 3 in the left lane. We could potentially beat a Shang-Chi. Oh, we can't beat the Shang-Chi though, can we? Ooh, can we? We can. Jesus. That was so close. Oh, that was uncomfortably close. So we're going into battle number 3, and we haven't made an opponent kneel, not even once. Depending on what kind of deck they are, that could be really good for them or really bad. The Bass tells me this could... It wouldn't be a Mr. Negative, right? Maybe they got hit with Iron Man, but then they offset that with Bast. I'm not sure if this is the Bast decision or not, but we're going to do Electro and then Electro and Jeff, I think. The Bast is throwing me off. It shouldn't be a Mr. Negative. They would have played Mr. Negative on 1 had that been the case. And so I'm thinking this is more along the lines of, I don't know, it could still be Mr. Negative. They just didn't have those cards in hand. All right, let's do Electro and Jeff because we can overcome the Electro deficit. And then we'll see. We are going to be able to play some big cards really early. It is a Mr. Negative. They just didn't have it in hand. Ooh, that's kind of scary. Getting a negative Iron Man. The Bast, though. Offset it and put it back to normal. I don't know. We don't have Spider-Man. We don't have Professor X yet. But what we do have is Gumption. Do we think they have something bigger than 7? Bigger than 8 in the right lane? Maybe. We also don't need the draw, so we can always just throw it into the left lane. That's what we're going to do. If we had a Spider-Man, this would be a very easy lock for us. Actually, we're going to do it anyways. If we had Spider-Man, this would be a very easy lock. But since we don't, we're going to do, I think, Wave next turn. That would allow them to only do 1 drop. Whereas we can do 2 because we have the extra 2 from Electro. So the Wave is going to be really beneficial for us in allowing us to do like an Orca and something else and just really make them struggle. And I started this battle saying it's been 3 matches and we haven't made anybody kneel. There it is. And we do get the retreat early on. Let's go. This could be a Silver Surfer, like a negative Surfer list. And without the extra space, they may not have had a room to play. We will absolutely take it. Absolutely beautiful. We finally made somebody kneel. Galactus is no longer that this is all that you do every single game. It is much more of a kind of surprise whenever you can get it off. Great, but you need other primary play lines. So some will lean very heavily into the Galactus, but then they can get very hard countered very easily. Let's go ahead and do Nebula. I'm going to do Nebula into the Teal'c location. We don't know. Maybe we draw Wave next turn, and we can Wave, and then we draw back into Galactus after a Teal'c triggers. We have a couple of cool ways to navigate this. We do get Electro, and then we can also always shift everything over into New York. I think we're okay with this. They also haven't played anything for the first 3 turns, so we're going to snap. Because with the Mr. Negative, getting Mr. Negative on 4 is so important. Plus, they're going to be shuffling the cards. They won't know if they have Mr. Negative to play on 4 or not. They also haven't played Zabu, Bast, just a lot of unfortunate things. They now have Zabu. And so if they draw back into Mr. Negative, into Wong, they will be able to play it. But it's a little bit less consistent now. We get Wave. So we could always Wave on the last turn. I'm so sorry, Sir Waffle. I'm not laughing at you. I can understand the frustration from that other end where you just don't draw into the resources you need. It's really unfortunate. They are down to 4 bars of health. We're going to continue to press our advantage where we can. New York is really cool at being able to shift the cards over on turn 6 to be able to then do Galactus in any of the lanes. We have Iceman. We have Daredevil. We're going to snap into it. We're going to continue to put the pressure on. At this point, the deficit is really big. And so we want to try to put them into unwinnable or less winnable hands. We don't want to wait. If this was poker, we don't want to wait for them to have a pocket pair. We don't want them to have pocket aces. We want to try to push them whenever maybe they just have a less advantageous hand, but decent enough to stay. So we have the Iceman. We have the Daredevil. Let's see if we can get the Infinite Avatar border on Sir Wong, getting the good old, looks like a salute, but it's not quite a salute. We have Galactus, we have Orca. What we don't have is, unfortunately, a ramp component. Now, they have Zabu that they played on 2 into a Brood on 3. So maybe we hit their Mr. Negative and it went down to 4 instead of down to 3. That would kind of be funny. All right, we're going to skip here. Let's see if this is a Mr. No, it's a Magic. Okay. So they extend the game. That doesn't necessarily mean the game is going to be extended. So I think what we do here is probably Hobgoblin. I never understand the urge to snap whenever the opponent has a Daredevil. I will never understand that urge. Ooh, that is a So Wong, my friend. All right, we can lock this lane down. We can do a Hobgoblin. They probably have an Iron Heart. So Professor X here could be a little bit risky. We could also do something like a Hobgoblin And then next turn, we're aiming to do our Galactus and just end the game there. I don't think they're going to have a Cosmo running the Mr. Negative. And they've already snapped. We're not going to snap back. Let's do the Hobgoblin. They can shift their cards into New York since it will be turn 6. But getting over that power range, I think, might be a little bit more difficult. They will have initiative, so they could do... they can move, I guess, their Iron... They can move their Brood over. And then do an Iron Heart, do a Silver Surfer, and just go all in this turn. It's a possibility. We can also try to angle here. They haven't done Mr. Negative, so they can't do as much burst. Let's see if they anticipate the Galactus. We're going to see if we can make them kneel. The Mystique copying the Wong is big. What is this in the left lane? Because this could be the end of the game. This could be where it ends. Mr. Negative is not going to do it, my friend. That is -7 to a +7. The Limbo location is now gone, and we will make Sir Waffle kneel before Galactus. And that is the third battle done and dusted. We are going to be jumping straight into battle number 4. See if we can knock out this Infinity Conquest run. Next up, we're going to Arby's because we have the meat. Not my best work, you guys. Nova Roma comes up first. We don't know what kind of deck they're running, but we do have Daredevil, so that's going to give us some quality information. We could do Daredevil into maybe a wave, into trying to lock down a lane with Professor X, and just put them into unwinnable or tough spots. Zabu. This could either be the Hawk deck, or it could be another Mr. Negative deck. And I think we're here for it. We're going to gamble. We're going to play Wave. Galactus could just pull into Sakaar, and then we're happy with that. We can also pull into Spider-Man, Professor X, some really good cards into Sakaar, and then we have Galactus to try to leverage that left lane, depending on if we have initiative or not. So depending on what we pull into Sakaar, we could very easily have initiative here. And so Wave comes down, Galactus. Oh, wow. The Polaris blocks the Galactus. That's a tough one. That is a tough one, my dude. All right. Gosh. We were going to go Professor X in the left lane. We're going to let them get all of the draw possible. That's unfortunate. We're going to let them get all of the draw possible. We can do Spider-Man into an Orca in Sakaar. As long as we can win Nova Roma, we're perfectly fine. They're Captain Marvel. Even though she's a wonderful resource and can roam and rove, she's not going to be able to bump into Nova Roma with it being completely locked in. Now, maybe we should have used Professor X into the Sakaar lane since we're already winning that location. But I think they probably fight for Asgard. If I was them, if I wasn't anticipating the kind of alternate play line here, I would absolutely do the same thing and play for Asgard so that I can get the additional draw. And then now we are sitting pretty comfortable, I think, with this Spider-Man play into Orca. If we draw Jeff, then maybe we do something smaller like an Iceman and something else. Sarah is unfortunate. It is what it is. Do they have Jeff? Do they have good old Jeffrey? Is the biggest question now. Let's do the Spider-Man lock. We're gonna try and put them in an unwinnable spot. They have the Sarah, but it does. I mean, they only have one space to play. We do get Jeff. I think we have to. I think we have to assume that for a Captain Marvel deck, for any deck right now, Jeff is a possibility. So if we have the means to further buff it up, I think we have to go with it. And so they do retreat. Let's jump into battle number 2. 2 cubes down. They know we have Galactus. They know we have lockdown. Their Captain Marvel is going to be a little bit less efficient now because it won't have as much free reign to move. With the Professor X, that is one of the worst things for a Captain Marvel is that she just can't. She doesn't have that flexibility to move into those lanes that she needs to. We do have Wave, Spider-Man, Professor X. Beautiful resources here. They have the Zabu. So great early game. I think we're going to snap here into a wave. They have to wonder, are they going to do Galactus? Are they going to do a lockdown? What are they going to do? And so I think we go Wave into like a Professor X and probably Professor X into Luke's bar. If I was a gambling man. And who has initiative here? If they stole initiative there, that is big. No, they did not. So now it comes down to a bit of a gut read. We have the Galactus. Galactus into Spider-Man is always so much fun. or we could try the Professor X lock into Luke's bar. I'm going to try the Galactus and hope that that's not where they play. We don't know. Oh, no, we have initiative. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's going to go off. They do have a card in Atlantis. What do they drop there? The Captain Marvel's gone. The Zabu's gone. What else do they have to lean in here? Lockdown. No, Sarah. Okay. Sarah was probably a good read, knowing that this is probably the lane we go with Galactus on. We are now going to go with our Spider-Man and hope that that's enough to bamboozle them. That's going to potentially allow us to do Hobgoblin plus Iceman on the last turn, which is going to be a positive 10 power at the very least. If we get Orca, great, that's positive 11. If they don't do anything, maybe we draw into Shang-Chi. That'd be a 12 power swing. All right, sorry about that. I ran out of disk space, so I deleted some old recordings. They did end up retreating out of that one, and so now we are up with a lead of 4 by snapping and playing into it aggressively. Let's start with our Nebula. Next turn is probably going to be Iceman, and then we'll see. Depending on what we draw into, we may snap. As long as we get a ramp component, the Hobgoblin and the Professor X are going to be fantastic resources for us. And we do get a ramp component, so might as well. Now, we may pull a fast one on them. With the wave, instead of doing Galactus this time, we may wave into a Professor X into a lane we already have resources in, just to keep them kind of guessing of which direction we're going to go. And that's where I find that I have the most success with decks, is putting a little bit of doubt into the opponent's mind of where they're going to play and what are they going to play. And so Starlight Citadel is actually going to shift the location, so Clintar may absorb everything in this left lane. So I think we're going to go Professor X into mid. I think mid is the right space for us. It's either that or we go into Danger Room. I'm going to go into Danger Room, hope that whatever they play there gets destroyed. That's just my read. So the Maximus, they were trying to block a Galactus, and instead we have the Professor X. Clintar switches over into the left lane, so all of those are going to merge. Their Captain Marvel's gone. Our Nebula, our whatever else was Iceman, and our what was the last card? Our Wave are gone as well. But the Maximus allowed us to have additional draw, which is fantastic. We are here for it. Let's go Spider-Man in the left lane. And then we have Jeff. We have some other flexible tools. I don't think we're going to need the Galactus here. I think the Spider-Man into the Jeff in the right lane is going to be enough. Spider-Ham hits our Hobgoblin perfectly fine. The Lizard comes in the left lane, also perfectly fine. I think we do something like this. Maybe we do something like this. We'll take away the positive power from the Lizard. If they have Jeff, then it comes down to a point differential. And taking away that extra 4 in the Lizard may be that difference maker. And so normally I would split to make sure that we could win this Professor X lane regardless. But I think since it was going to come down to a tiebreaker, if they had Jeff regardless, this is the direction we would want to go. And we do get the retreat from Meat. They are down to 4 bars of health very, very, very early on. Let's see if we can hold this one out. And we are trying to get that infinite avatar order. So far, this version of Galactus, it really plays into those mind games of the opponent doesn't really know which direction we're going to go. Aunt May's is kind of cool. So we're going to be able to do Spider-Man into Aunt May's, push it out, and then a free Galactus. And they're not going to be able to have things solidified in Aunt May's until after that point. And so Spider-Ham. Okay, no, as long as it's not Spider-Ham, we should be okay. And Spider-Ham's still not a guaranteed to hit our Galactus either. So, Punlun, we do have Professor X, but we are pretty much just waiting until turn number 4. As long as they can't cap out the Great Web, we will be very safe in the Spider-Man bump over to the left. I guess it could bump into the right with Aunt May's. It doesn't matter. As long as it's not in that middle location, we're perfectly fine. I thought Captain Marvel got buffed from Aunt May's because it moved over so seamlessly, but no, it didn't. We're going to skip once again. Their card over in Kunlun is going to unfortunately get pushed over into the Great Web. And then now we have the good old Spider-Man play that will bounce somewhere. We don't know if it's guaranteed to take their card out of Aunt May's this turn or not. I think it's pretty depending on where Spider-Man bounces to. Okay, the Cosmo and Kunlun is unfortunate. That is not where we're going to be playing for. Playing that into Kunlun would have been the much safer play. And their Cosmo does jump over into the left lane. And we have initiative, so there's nothing that they can do to stop this one. Such an unfortunate set of locations for Meat. If they decide to stick this one out because they're mentally exhausted from the mental gymnastic that this deck is making them do, we'll take it. They do. And so we'll never know what they had face down in that location. But we are going to make them kneel once again. The first 2 rounds, we weren't able to make the opponents kneel. Turn 3 and turn 4, we were absolutely able to hammer it home with the Galactus. We're here once again, my friends, trying to get that infinite avatar border. Let's see if we can get it. All right, for our final big bad, we have Tim. Aunt May's again, which we know how Aunt May's ended the round last game. If we can draw into both Galactus and Spider-Man, we're here for it. We have our Iceman for that early disruption, and we're just going to play it by ear depending on what we draw into. But if we get a couple of those key cards, we are absolutely going to be snapping into it. Actually, we're going to snap into it anyways. We're confident. The Daredevil Read gives us a lot of agency on doing a Hobgoblin, into setting up a Galactus, into a Professor X, into an Orca play, and just a lot of ways that we have agency over those last couple of turns. With the Daredevil Read, the Vault comes down as well, and we've already been stacking cards into that location, which is unfortunate for Tim. We have no idea what kind of cards are in their deck. All that they know is that we have Iceman, and we get the retreat. We get the 2-cube retreat. At that point, I mean, other than them giving us information, there wasn't really an upside for switching there. Okay, we have Iceman. If we can get a ramp component, we can Galactus before Mindscape triggers. We have the Spider-Man, which is going to be decent value. Let's go ahead and see if we can keep putting the pressure on. Warrior Falls is also kind of cool at being able to potentially allow us to get an easy win, because it's going to encourage Tim to play away from that location. Ooh, Sakaar could be beautiful here. Let's snap into it. Now, if this does not pull Galactus, I don't want it to pull our Spider-Man. And if it pulls our, I don't know, if it pulls Spider, I don't want it to really pull Spider-Man. I'd rather it pull like Shang-Chi. We still have no idea what Tim has in their deck. I will take it. We will take it. Let's let him cook. We're letting him cook. Ooh, we have Nebula into Wave into Galactus. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful value in those cards. Wave is not great in deep space. Galactus is not great in deep space. None of our deck is really fantastic over there. Ooh. And then a Teelan is going to shuffle our cards. So that's not fantastic either, unless they have like a Zabu Mr. Negative line. Spider-Ham. Ooh, Spider-Ham hits our Galactus. Interesting turn of events. That they just haven't played anything for the first like 3 rounds. Super interesting. Let's go Wave. We're no longer going to be able to win via the Galactus. We still have means to win. Teelan's going to shuffle our cards, so it's going to be a little bit of a Hail Mary here, but we're going to do Wave, and then what we're hoping to do is a Professor X. Ooh, the Thor in that lane is decent. If we can get Professor X, I still think we lean into doing a Professor X over in Shadowland. That is awful cards. All of those are awful cards. Every single one of those are treacherous. All right, we're going to throw the big pig over there. I guess they're probably running a high Evo Lockjaw rotation deck. Seeing the Spider-Ham, seeing the Thor, that's what I would imagine they have here. There's the Hulk smashing down. So, okay, the Professor X is big here. Nah, it's not that great, actually. We would have needed Professor X into like a Spider-Man. It's not great. It's not fantastic. I guess we Professor X into mid. We probably retreat out of this one, I think. We could either Professor X into mid or into the right lane. Yeah, let's retreat out. So we now know a lot about what Tim is running. and I'm guessing their first couple of hands were just really bad. The Spider Ham hitting Galactus was huge, and then the Atelian rotation. We had a couple of ways that we could have potentially found ways to win. We did take a calculated gamble going into that shuffle. We're here for it. We're going to continue to try to not play too passively, because that's where I think I started faltering on those round 5s, is that I played way too passively compared to what I do in the other rounds because I was too afraid of losing. And then it's just like a slow trickle. You lose 2, you lose 1, you lose 2, and then all of a sudden you're losing 4 and you're done. You're out of the game. I think we do Nebula here into Stark Tower, allowing her to get some benefit. They do have Spider Ham once again, which hits our Galactus. A little bit problematic, not the end of the world either though, especially with the Spider-Man and the Professor X line. Let's go Iceman, let's go Jeff. We also have Shang-Chi hidden in our deck, so if they get a little bit too comfortable and they get put too much power on the board, we do have a way to swing those locations after the fact. Now, without a ramp component here, it's been a little bit unfortunate. I think we go Electro, just because. Electro into... We don't have Daredevil either. It'll be Electro into something. If they snap here, we're probably going to do the same thing. We're going to take a page from their book. We're going to play it passively. They had the Thor on 3, which is good, but we haven't seen the Lockjaw, which I imagine is in their deck. We could always go the weaker Professor X into Spider-Man, but I think what we would want to do instead would be go Professor X into Spider-Man in a different lane to really restrict the space that they have to play after the fact. So the Lockjaw does come down in Pet Mansion. We should have the lead going into this turn, so if they try to rotate a Wasp, we're actually going to hold it captive in this left lane with the Professor X play. We can always move Jeff over, and then... Ooh, actually, Spider-Man is not big in Atlantis, right? Because we didn't ramp early enough. I was thinking this was turn 4 for the Professor X, not turn 5. We will stick it out, but we're not going to snap into it. Okay, the Lockjaw is locked in place now. We know that they have the lock for... We know that they have the Mjolnir. So I think we do something cheeky here. I don't see a world where they don't drop the Mjolnir, right? They have Wasp, they have Mjolnir, and then they have Evil Hulk, they have Dracula, any number of things. I almost want to snap into this, but I also want the guaranteed extra 1 as well. We'll snap into it. See if they stick it out. They do. Wait, Magneto pulls the Electro. That's could be pretty big over there. We'll see, though. The Mjolnir comes down. We take out, I guess we take out both Thor and Jane Foster, that leaving just Spider-Ham. And so we should be able to win that one. They have 4 to our 12. Beautiful 4-cube swing, giving us a big push in the right direction. And so sometimes during Game 5, I try to take the small wins. Every once in a while, I think it is worthwhile to do those big gambles. Not necessarily a gamble. We knew that we had that one, but we were hoping that their hubris would make it where they wouldn't retreat, thinking that we didn't have that correct or proper counterplay. They're down to 3 bars of health very early on. We have 8, so we are looking like we may finally overcome this challenge. It's not a surefire thing yet, but we are hoping that we can turn it into one. No ramp component or no plays before turn 3, unfortunately. We will be able to do Electro. I'm going to throw it into the Danger Room. It's not going to reveal anything. Okay, that's unfortunate. We're still going to throw it into the Danger Room. We're not going to be able to ramp anymore. The extra cards in Nidavellir is fine with a Shang-Chi, I imagine. I mean, the one upside of this is that we have the Electro into Daredevil. We'll get a good read on where Professor X can come down. So I'm going to go ahead and snap into it. We're going to make them commit all of their cubes before this play happens, and then we'll see. We'll ride it out. This could be the end. There could be a couple more rounds. We're trying to get that purple border. Okay, so the Lockjaw rotation in Nidavellir is big, but we have Shang-Chi in hand, so it may not be as good for them as they would want. Jubilee and Danger Room is also big. Ooh, and it pulls into, and so it may not be as big as they would want because it pulls immediately into the Mjolnir. Super unfortunate. The Shang-Chi in mid is going to be massive in allowing us to find a way to overcome that big power. Their Lockjaw would stay in place, but that is, honestly, that's fine. We could either do Galactus, which I don't think we go with Galactus because they have cards that are far bigger than what we can drop on the last turn. I think we angle more towards the Professor X, probably into Danger Room. And then we're looking to do a Jeff plus Shang-Chi in Nidavellir to swing that one back in our favor. That's the tentative line, depending on where they play here, of course. Dracula is one that is tough to overcome this time around. It is going to be, I think it's going to be rather easy this time around. The Dracula, no matter what it pulls into, it's fine. We have the left lane locked in. We now have the Shang-Chi play in mid. We don't have initiative because they have so much power in Nidavellir, so we can do the Shang-Chi, the Jeff, and that should, I believe, overcome whatever they plan to do. Doing a Magneto does not pull any cards that they need. We should be A-okay here. I think this is going to be the game for the purple border, and overall we had a pretty seamless run with the lockdown control heavy Galactus build. Certain matches, Galactus is going to be your key. Other ones, playing away from Galactus, going for that lockdown route, going for the Orca surprise on the last turn, could be the more beneficial line. And being able to identify what your opponent has and where those strengths are going to lie is going to be where that finesse with this deck comes in. All right, so the one card in the right lane, that is the Evil Hulk, and it is not going to do it. We have the Shang-Chi taking out the Thor. They only have 7 power remaining in Nidavellir, and we come well over the top of that. They have a lot of power in Lemuria, but we have the power that we need in the other two. And that is a beautiful thing. 2 days in a row, we have conquered the Infinity Conquest. Yesterday was with the Hela Living Tribunal deck, and today with none other than Galactus, a nulless Galactus at that. We're going to go ahead and end the video here. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give it a like and a comment down below. As always, this has been TLSG. Later, guys.